I'm Dale Kimbler, half of the stewardship team with my wife Andy. And the pledge campaign is almost over. The only part left is some people turning in their pledges. I thought this was a good time to talk about the part that we don't usually talk about, which is why we solicit money and have to have it. And so I wanted to talk about what UUFC means to me and to you. I think it's pretty obvious that membership at UUFC means different things to different people. Some people value worship and sermons, others the community it offers, some just love to sing, and that's fine. We're all valued in our fellowship here. But when stewardship is discussed, especially the annual pledge drive, something different happens. We're asked to put a value on our membership, even though we might not think it's happening that way. But we pledge that value, or as much of it as we can afford, for the coming year's expenses. Calculating a value that way is hard, though, and maybe not even meaningful. It's hard for me to put a price on what I enjoy about this fellowship and what I have in the past and what I look forward to. But what if we look at it as, what does it cost to have a UUFC? And what's our share in that? And how much should we pay for the membership? If we're thinking of joining a gym or subscribing to cable TV, or just having electricity and water in our house, somebody does the calculations for us and tells us what it costs, and we pay it in order to have it. No one does that at UUFC. No one says, Dell, we know that you get Social Security once a month and you have a pretty good pension from the university, so here's what your pledge should be. Nobody says that to me. And I'm so glad we don't do that. Nobody says that to you. It would be extremely difficult to do it to begin with, and the other end of it is we shouldn't even try. What I pledge to pay as my share of having a UUFC in existence is my decision, and nobody else has any idea of what I can afford. So how should we do these calculations? Well, our finance council gives us a starting point. They look at all the things that are necessary to operate our fellowship. We have to pay for its utilities and the salaries of the few people who work for us. It's a lot like we have maintenance to take care of and wear and tear on the buildings. It's a lot like owning a house, except for the salary part. I think we can all relate to owning or renting a place to live. For this coming year, our budget for everything is close to $192,000. After we take out other revenue sources like expectations of renting use of the building, fundraising, income from invested funds, we're left with about $180,000 left to pay. This is our pledge goal, the amount we need for next year to pay for ordinary operating expenses. Or to put it more clearly, this is what it costs all of us together to have UUFC. We could divide that by 118, which is the number of pledge cards we sent out. And that would result in about $1,525 for each pledge package that we mailed. But that assumes we all have exactly that amount to contribute. Some have more, some have less. So that isn't really helpful. But part of the pledge packet has a fair share contribution guide. The first page of this guide helps us calculate how much we have left over based on our income after accounting for special circumstances, like we might have won a lottery. Or, on the other side, we might have had to help a relative in need throughout the year. We should take those into consideration. So what the first page of the pledge guide does is helps us through that, starting with our monthly gross income from wherever we get it, and letting us subtract out things that are unusual that we ought to take into account, and we have come up with something less than that typically. The other part is on the other side of the contribution guide, and it shows 4 different levels of giving with suggested percentages of our adjusted monthly income. Take the smallest example there. An adjusted monthly income of $1,000 at a 2% contribution level. So if I were having to live on $1,000 a month and I didn't have much left over, but I wanted to make some kind of contribution, the lowest level in the guide is $20 a month. Now that doesn't mean I can only give $5, I shouldn't give anything. If I can only give $5, we ought to accept my $5. If I can afford more than that, if my gross income is higher and I want to be more enthusiastic about what I give, I'm going to give more. This is the second important piece of using the contribution guide. This way, we all get to decide based on how much we have left over at the end of the month, what share of that we think is right for us to give in order for UUFC to exist. And we need to honor everybody's contribution exactly as they choose it, and we do. And that's what the pledge campaign is really all about. If we all do this, we hope we'll meet our goal of $180,000. Many people have turned in their pledge cards. Some haven't yet. That's fine. We hope you will. If we don't meet our pledge goal of $180,000, then the reality is there's some things that we wanted to do that won't get done. And that could mean some people we pay won't get paid as much. Some things we want to do simply won't happen. And we're going to have to find a way to deal with that. And we will. This happens every year, and we'll do that. We'll find a way to deal with what we have. We always have, and I think we always will. Let's hope, though, that it turns out the other way. We do better than that, and we all end up satisfied with what we pledge and satisfied with what UUFC is able to do in the coming year. And so I hope everybody will, whether you've already turned in your pledge or not, take a look at that form. Some of those are back at the welcome table, along with the pledge form if you haven't done it yet, or if you lost yours, or the dog ate it, or whatever. We hope that everybody who is a member or a friend will give some thought to what you've already pledged and see if that was the correct amount using this guide. Or if you haven't pledged yet, take a look at it and let that help you work through the process of deciding what you want to give. And if you do this and you can't contribute anything, that's okay too. But if that's the case, I want you to do one more thing. I want you to speak to Reverend Christina and let us find out how we can help you. We're all in this together, regardless of what we give. And so whatever we contribute, it has to be okay.